welcome back everyone. We are continuing our reading of the Paninis of Pompeii. I think this is our 9th section of the story now. I hope you're still really enjoying it. And we are on Phileus and the Curious Object. Now, one day Phileus was playing outside in the street, trying to teach Barcus Wolferinicum to catch frogs, when he happened to spy a curious object lying in the gutter. "I shall not pick it up," he thought. But then he thought, "No, actually I will." But then he thought, "But it's only a few steps away." But then he thought, "Still, a few steps is a few steps. I honestly can't be bothered." But then he thought, "What if I'm missing out? What if I pick it up and it's something really good?" But then he thought, "But what if it's not something good? I'll have wasted my time and energy." But then he thought, "But it might be worth it." But then he thought, "But it might not be worth it." But then he thought, "But it's really no big deal. If it's not worth it, then who cares? At least I tried." But then he thought, "No, I am enjoying my day more than enough already. Just me and Barcus Wolferinicum catching frogs on the street. I don't need to know what that curious object is. For the moral of ancient Pompeii is, be content with what you have." But then he thought, but it could lead to an adventure. For the moral of ancient Pompeii is, seize every opportunity for adventure that comes your way. That's it, I shall pick it up after all. And so it was that Phileus eventually convinced himself to walk over and take a look at the curious object lying in the gutter. But just as he was about to do so, a new thought struck him. "Hang on," he thought. "What if I go over there, but when I bend down to see what it is, my toga rides up and everyone sees my bottom?" But then he thought, "What am I worried about? There's no one around to see my bottom." But then he thought, "But what if there is someone around after all, but they're hiding nearby, hoping that I'll bend over and my toga will ride up and my bottom will pop out and then they'll laugh at me?" But then he thought, "It doesn't matter even if there is someone watching. I could go over there and pick up the curious object very carefully, taking great caution all the while to make sure my bottom stays decent." But then he thought, "I'm getting tired of thinking. It's growing dark and the mirror men will soon be coming out to hunt. And besides, Barcus Wolferinicum will never learn to catch frogs. In fact, some of the frogs have actually caught him." So Phileus spent half an hour or so battling the frogs who caught Barcus Wolferinicum in one of the most difficult traps, and eventually he was able to rescue the hound and go inside for supper, which that night was a large cake in the shape of Caecilius. Caecilius got a bit confused by the cake and at one point started trying to eat himself, but Vesuvius sorted it out by writing "A cake" on the cake using a pencil with a rubber on the end, and "not a cake" on Caecilius. A couple of hours later, a small girl named Lucia came along and noticed the curious object lying in the gutter. She went over and picked it up, and it was the best thing she ever found in her life. It was a horse, and it became her best friend. And it could talk and predict the future, and it could fly, and it could time travel, and it could go to other worlds, and it could tell you funny stories and sing songs that were better than any songs ever written, and it could play the drums, and it could make money and presents come out of its eyes, and it could solve all your problems, and it made sure you were never, ever lonely ever again. And it could make everyone you fancied fall in love with you. And it could make you really happy all the time. Every second you would be so happy if you picked up that horse. It was unbelievable. The end. And we'll come back to the next section tomorrow.